Germany, 1871. Chancellor Otto von Bismarck begins imposing strict state controls on the Catholic Church in favor of a more secularized society. This Kulturkampf, or culture struggle as it was known, severely limited the ability of religious groups to serve in Germany. Having been invited to send sisters to Indiana by the German-American Bishop Joseph Dwenger of Fort Wayne, Mother Maria Theresia planned the order's expansion to the United States. November 1875, 6 Sisters of St. Francis set out for North America in search of new ministries in healthcare and the education of children. They left Olpe, Germany, and embarked on the Holland from Rotterdam on November 25, 1875. They arrived in New York on December 12, 1875, where they stayed with the Franciscan Sisters of the Poor. On December 14, 1875, the 6 sisters arrived by train in Lafayette, Indiana.
Hi, and welcome to Lafayette. I'm Terry Wilson, and I'm the Regional CEO for Franciscan Alliance here. And we're going to try to introduce you to some of the Franciscan sites here in Lafayette that are so important to the history of our sisters community and to our mission, not just here, but throughout the state of Indiana and Illinois. We're here at the historic train station in Lafayette. That is the place that our sisters first arrived on December 14, 1875. Truth be told, the train station has actually moved down the street a little ways during a major railroad relocation project here in Lafayette. And ironically, as we stand here on a very cold February day, they arrived in winter in December of 1875 with very little but the luggage that they could carry and a mission in their heart to help the people of this community. Here we are at St. Boniface Parish. We're only about 4 or 5 blocks from the train station where we stopped last. And this is where the sisters came on day 2 of their trip to America. A kindly German-speaking police officer helped them get situated in a boarding house for the night after they arrived, and the very next day they came here, and they've been here ever since. Our sisters have a convent on this campus. They teach in the St. Boniface Elementary School here. Currently, one of our sisters is the principal of that school, and they've been involved in the school since 1877. They've been a very active part of parish life here at St. Boniface and a very important part of this local Catholic community. Here we are at 10th and Cincinnati Streets in Lafayette, just a couple of blocks from St. Boniface Parish and a few blocks from the train station, at the site of the very first hospital that our sisters ever operated in this country. This was an old house. This was a house in Lafayette that was given to the sisters, loaned to them to use as a hospital. As you can see from the plaque on the wall here, they arrived in middle of December of 1875 and within a couple of weeks had procured this house and began taking patients in January of 1876. So they didn't let much time pass before they really began their mission in earnest in this country. Here we are at St. Joseph Cemetery on Greenbush Street in Lafayette, only a few blocks from our St. Elizabeth Central campus and a few blocks in the other direction from St. Boniface in 10th and Cincinnati Streets. So you can see how this filled the community on this side of town. And this is the final resting place for many of our sisters. It was the first place that some of our sisters were buried in this country. And it is the final resting place for the original 6 sisters who traveled here from Germany in 1875. Here we are at the St. Boniface Cemetery in Lafayette, where many of our sisters were buried in the first half of the 20th century, even some after the mother house was moved from here in Lafayette to Mishawaka in 1943. This is a second point of Franciscan interest here at the St. Boniface Cemetery in Lafayette. This is a World War I memorial here in the cemetery, and over my right shoulder you can see a monument to Sister Camilla Zolper. Sister was buried with full military honors, actually back at St. Joseph's Cemetery, for her service to the soldiers at Camp Purdue during the flu epidemic and during their encampment for World War I. This monument is here at the World War I Memorial to honor Sisters' service during the war. The next stop in our tour of Franciscan sites in Lafayette is here at the St. Elizabeth Central campus. This is the site that our sisters built their first hospital in this country. After they started at 10th and Cincinnati Street, they quickly began raising the resources, the money, to build a hospital, and finished their first hospital building on this campus later in 1876. So less than a year from when they arrived, they built a hospital building at this site. Over my right shoulder, you'll see part of the historic St. Francis Chapel at St. Elizabeth, our 108-year-old chapel, which today is still an adoration chapel as it was when the sisters were here. This site where I'm standing and where you see the statue of St. Francis behind me was the site of the convent, the mother house for our sisters in the United States from the late 1870s when they first arrived until 1943 when the mother house was moved to Mishawaka. The last stop on our Franciscan tour here in Lafayette is at St. Elizabeth East. Our new hospital opened in 2010 here on the south side of town. It is the future of our ministry here in the original home of our sisters in the United States.